Welcome everyone, this is Master's Joke, also Master's Joke 75 on Instagram. So I've been meaning to do this for a while, a rundown of every single TARDIS console from 1963 to the current day. I've worked it out. I mean, I might be wrong, because you know me, I don't do any research. This is all about me, and it's all about my personal opinions. But I've worked it out that there's 14 TARDIS console rooms. So yeah, I might be wrong, but in my little world, there's 14 TARDIS console rooms, and unfortunately, Jodie, her TARDIS is 14th. Now, Jodie's exterior police box TARDIS, I've got to be honest, it's my favourite TARDIS exterior of all time, and that's really that's a big thing for me to say. But I've said it for many years now. It's one of the things that Chibs got so right. I just love it, and I was so glad when RTD decided to keep it for the new Shooty Disney era, because it's beautiful. And we've also had the recent TARDIS release from Character Options, and I know it's not accurate. It's nowhere near accurate. Hopefully one day they will release the prototype version that they've already made for Jodie's TARDIS, you know, the upscaled version. But it's gonna take some time. But I love Jodie's TARDIS, but the interior, and also I love Jodie as well. I thought she was great. I really like her. The stories let her down. That's nothing about her. But her TARDIS console, I've not really got a lot to say on it. It's just too dark. I call it the Dragonfire TARDIS console. I don't like the time rotor. It just doesn't work for me. It's too dark. It's too small. I just don't like it. There's not much more I can say. I would have liked to have seen David Tennant in her TARDIS, because I do like, you know, when you have the crossovers and you have another Doctor in another Doctor's TARDIS. I really find that fascinating. So it was disappointing that David Tennant didn't actually get an appearance in Jodie's TARDIS. Again, it didn't make sense, but I understand that they'd already packed away the studios before it, you know, moved to Bad Wolf. So yeah, that was a shame. But yeah, I'm not really saying anything, am I, about Jodie's TARDIS? I remember seeing the behind the scenes where they asked her what her favourite biscuit was, and it was like a custard cream, and she could press a button and a custard cream biscuit would just come out of the console. Whereas only a couple of Doctors earlier, it was a jammy Dodger. Matt Smith said his Doctor liked jammy Dodgers. So I never really understood how that kind of how that really worked. But yeah, I just don't like it. It's just too dark. It's too dark and too small. But I am happy that Character Options did put the little card insert for Jodie's TARDIS in their recent B&M release. I thought that was a nice touch. So at number 13, it's Matt Smith's original TARDIS from 2010. Now, don't get me wrong, it's very beautiful. I like that it's on 2 levels. The lighting's nice. It's got a metallic feel to the place. I don't like the time rotor, the way it's kind of encased in. It's almost boxed in. I didn't like that. I mean, the kind of blown glass where the time rotor kind of goes up and down, that's nice, but I just don't like it. It's not the Doctor's TARDIS. It's not a time machine. It's got too many bits and pieces on it. It's got lovely lights on the console, because I remember having a good old look at it when I was at the Doctor Who experience. You know, when this was when it was back in London. I never went to the Cardiff version, and when you know, it's probably exactly the same as the Cardiff one, where you enter the TARDIS and you're part of the adventure, and it was interesting to see. But for me, it's not the Doctor's TARDIS, so that's why it's so low on my my Doctor Who TARDIS ranking. I just wasn't getting time machine vibes from it. So at number 12, it's the New Who Eckleston-Tenant TARDIS. It's an interesting design. I loved the playset from Character Options. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Picked it up for £20 in Toys R Us in St Evenage. It's a really, really interesting TARDIS, but I just didn't like the console. I liked the vibes of the McGann movie TARDIS, where the kind of time rotor went up into the ceiling. I liked the colours. I liked the lighting. I also liked the walls, because I remember when I went to, at the end of the Parting of the Ways, I think it was like the week after, I went to the Doctor Who exhibition in Brighton on the pier, and they had a couple of wall panels from the TARDIS, and it was really interesting to see see it up close, because obviously when you see it on the TV, you know, there's all lighting involved and things like that. But seeing them up close, I found it fascinating. I love seeing Doctor Who exhibitions. You know, I don't know if you follow my channel, but I just didn't like the console, and I think what it was that kind of put me, because it had weird stuff. So it had like a handbrake of a car. It had like car seats where the Doctor and Rose would sometimes sit. There was weird stuff which reminded me of Lenny Henry's TARDIS console from the comedy sketch, where there was it was almost like there was a button that he had to use his fist to press, which was like an accelerator on a car. So I didn't like all that, but I think the one thing that kind of made me think this TARDIS just isn't for me was a paperweight. There was a glass, almost globe paperweight, you know, round piece of glass, had bubbles in it, obviously from IKEA, which I later found out was the same shop where they bought the lantern to make the TARDIS light on top of the actual police box prop. But yeah, so when they bought those lamps, they obviously bought some paperweights as well in the marketplace downstairs in IKEA near the tills. And seeing, I mean, it lit up lovely, because you could buy those in IKEA back in the 90s and noughties, and you could put a little light underneath, and they looked all right, like crystal balls. But when I saw the Doctor using that paperweight as a kind of, I don't know, it was almost like he was using it to kind of set coordinates on the TARDIS, and it was just him moving it around. And then there was another scene where Eccleston was just playing cat, you know, he was just throwing it in the air and catching it while he was talking to Rose, if I remember. And that's where I lost the reality of the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS. It was that paperweight from IKEA. So yeah, it was just too, I mean, Matt Smith's TARDIS was a bit too all over the place. Yeah, the Eckleston-Tenant was the same, and I didn't like the coral effect. No, it just wasn't for me. But I did like the crossover. I liked the fact that you had two Doctors who used the same TARDIS, similar to the 80s, with Colin Baker, Peter Davison, and Sylvester McCoy. And I also have a soft spot because I love the crossovers, and you've got Peter Davison in this TARDIS for Time Crash, and I really enjoyed Time Crash. I thought that was a great episode. When was that? Was that 2008, I think? And the Radio Times cover, I remember picking up the Radio Times from W.H. Smith's in St Albans. I don't know how I remember all this useless information, but the cover, Doctor Who magazine was good as well, but the cover for the Radio Times was just beautiful, with Peter Davison and David Tennant. Obviously before David Tennant married Peter's daughter. But yeah, and so again, because I don't really like this TARDIS, it's why it's so low on my TARDIS rankings. The Tenant-Shooty TARDIS. Now this was a TARDIS that we should have got back in 2005, because it's old school. This is how I always imagined the TARDIS would come back as during those infamous wilderness years after 1989. Because we used to get we used to get like hints of how Doctor Who might be in the comics, or you could imagine it in the Virgin novels. And then I remember there was concept art for it was a TARDIS which had the same it had like a high kind of time rotor, but it had the same interior within the console time rotor as the original William Hartnell TARDIS. So I always hoped that we would have something like this, and I remember I didn't actually watch it because I didn't have satellite TV at the time, but I remember Sylvester McCoy, he presented what was was it BSB, British Sky Broadcasting, or I think it was BSB before Sky purchased it, but they did a kind of a Doctor Who weekend, and I was so jealous because I can't remember where I read it. It must have been in Doctor Who magazine or something, because this was all before the internet, and I've obviously seen clips since, and they had the model with kind of Sylvester McCoy superimposed on the model as if he was in this TARDIS, and it just looked amazing. And I had obviously seen the concept art of this TARDIS and others, I think in Doctor Who magazine over the years. So just the classic white and the roundels. This is what I always hoped. Now, I really like this TARDIS. I love the lighting. I love that it's white. It's classic. It's a nice old school feel to it. William Hartnell would look fine standing in that console. I think the only negatives with it is that it came at the wrong time. It came when, I was so excited about it, and David Tennant's second, well, I say second, how many times has he been back? But David Tennant's tenure as the 14th Doctor, I just think it was awful. It was, what did they do to him? And why did... Well, I know David Tennant loves Doctor Who, but why would he come back for that? It was as if he'd never read the script. It was awful. But I'm not here to talk about the latest couple of series. But I was so disappointed as a Doctor Who fan. That 60th anniversary was just... it should have been much better. But the TARDIS looked great. Yeah, the only negative I'd say is it's too big. It's all ramps, and are those ramps for a wheelchair? I mean, is that what it's all about? Because was it Shooty's new TARDIS when Shooty got his TARDIS with a jukebox from the toy maker's magic left over with that hammer? Oh, that was just ridiculous. And it's now got a little ramp for a wheel, so it's now wheelchair accessible like a bus. I mean, that was just ridiculous because, I mean, there's been, how do they think K9 got in and out of the TARDIS? That was, you use your imagination, you don't have to show it. And don't forget, in Castrovalva, you've got, Peter Davison's Doctor. He's only just regenerated from Tom Baker, and he's lost his boots and they've turned into shoes. And he's going around in an electric wheelchair. So there have been wheelchairs in the TARDIS before. It's just ridiculous. But going back to the latest TARDIS, it's lovely, but it's just too big. It is just too big, and there's no rooms. We never got to see any other rooms, and that's one of the disappointing things about New Who, is that unlike the classic series where they would go into other rooms and bedrooms and zero rooms and corridors and swimming pools, you never got to see anything in the new TARDISes, really. I think apart from Matt Smith's era, I think he did a few rooms, and then I suppose you saw David Tennant choosing his new outfit when he regenerated into the 10th Doctor. But you never really got to see much, so that was a shame. But yeah, I really like this TARDIS, and didn't Jodie Whittaker look fantastic in it? If only Jodie had that TARDIS, because I didn't watch the latest season of Doctor Who. I'd given up on it after Joy to the World, and I've said this before on my channel, so I didn't watch any of it. And then I was in the theatre watching Julie and Clary, and my wife saw that the Doctor had regenerated, and I said, "Don't tell me." So I went home. I had to watch it. If it's a regeneration, I've got to watch it. I saw Billy Piper. I've got nothing to say about that. But Jodie Whittaker just popped out of nowhere, and it's got no relevance to the story whatsoever. She shouldn't be there, but it was lovely to see her, and she was great. And I'd love to see her back. I'd love to see Jodie Whittaker back, and back in that TARDIS console, because I think she would have been. I think she would have been great. It just suited her Doctor more than it did Shooty and David Tennant.
I can help you find doctors' offices if you turn on location.
Bloody Siri, I thought I'd keep that in for a laugh, but what business is my watch talking to me about doctors when I'm talking about the Doctor's TARDIS? Unbelievable. Anyway, this is number 10, so we're now into the top 10, and I wasn't sure if I should include the Fugitive Doctor's TARDIS, because I still don't know where she stands in the Whoniverse. I suppose my own personal point of view is she's from an alternative universe, possibly. I don't know. Has she got something to do with the Dr. Donna who's in Pete's world? I've honestly got no idea. But she was a good Doctor. She played it well. But I just don't know. I don't know how she fits into the Doctor Who universe. I just don't know. And she's popped up, hasn't she? She's popped up a couple of times. So I mean, who knows? But she was good, and Character Options made a great action figure and a great version of her TARDIS. So yeah, I like her. I do like her, but her TARDIS, it blew me away. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, we'd seen the hell-bent TARDIS, with the low doorway, so Peter Capaldi couldn't walk through. But we saw that, and it was like, oh, this is good. So that was like a generic TARDIS. It was like, oh, it's great to have Hartnell's TARDIS back, or something similar. And of course, we'd seen David Bradley portray William Hartnell, so we'd seen that version of the TARDIS. But that doesn't count because that's a docudrama. But this was a bit special, and I know when I saw the kind of behind the scenes, they did say it was quite difficult to film in it because it's quite a small set, but they did such a wonderful job. I mean, the Hartnell TARDIS just looked beautiful there. The lighting was amazing. The walls. I mean, I would have loved this to have been one of the Doctor's TARDIS consoles. It was just beautiful. But I think it's all about the lighting. I mean, even when you're watching the episode, and you could see, you could see the like Jodie talking to the Fugitive Doctor, and there was like blue lights, and just blew me away. Whoever did the filming for that, they did a wonderful job, an absolutely wonderful job. I loved that. I'd love them to put that TARDIS in a Doctor Who museum, but I just can't see the BBC putting on another massive Doctor Who exhibition like they used to, because there's just not the demand for it, and they made a loss, didn't they, for the Doctor Who experience. But yeah, it's just a beautiful TARDIS. Again, another nostalgic bonus from yesteryear, from the 60s, and it just shows you that the guys, the designers, the old classic show, they knew what they were doing. They just didn't have the budget, and look what they produced on such a low budget. So I really like this TARDIS console, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it back in the series when it comes back. I don't, this is about the consoles, isn't it, and the console rooms, but I can't see the series coming back for a while. I don't want RTD to bring it back, because I'm sure that the damage can be reversed. I hope it comes back as a movie, maybe in the next 5 years. That's what it needs. It needs a good story, a good writer, good director, and a good actor. It needs to be a movie, definitely, and kind of keep away from the past. Just a few nods here and there, but they need to keep away from the past. Have the Daleks in it, job done. But yeah, this is a wonderful TARDIS. Not really much more to say about it, because we didn't see much of it. I think didn't Jodie... I think the actual set was... So this is the Doctor's TARDIS, but I think the set was used again as a kind of generic TARDIS when Jodie escaped from Gallifrey after the Cybermen turned into Time Lord. Oh, another strange story, but again, the design of those Cyber Masters. Well, Cyber Masters, the Time Lord Cybermen. They're beautiful, and there's some samples of them at the Peterborough unofficial Doctor Who exhibition. So yeah, this is a great TARDIS, but I don't know much about it, and I would like to see it again. And I'm sure when Jodie stole that TARDIS, didn't it turn into a house, and then she kind of left it somewhere, which is always good to know if there's ever a future kind of Doctor Who episode where you need a TARDIS. I think she turned it into a tree, I think, using the chameleon circuit. But yeah, a really good TARDIS, and I'd love to see it again. So at number 9 is Tom Baker's Edwardian style Jules Verne wood and brass TARDIS. Not very popular with new Who fans, but I like it. But I was fascinated by this purely because I'd never even heard of it. No, I had seen one image of it. And this is really strange because I looked at the book yesterday. So was it there was a Doctor Who book. Was it by John Nathan Turner? I can't remember, but it was called The Key to Time. And I bought it in W.H. Smith's in the 80s with my... I used to get W.H. Smith vouchers for Christmas, like a £5 voucher from my Auntie Mary and Uncle Les, and also my Uncle Ken. And I'd get vouchers from other family members. You know, the ones that you only see once a year, who you don't really know. But I'd save up my vouchers and I'd go to W.H. Smith and buy books. And obviously, as you get older, you buy more interesting books. And I love Doctor Who, but I didn't have access to like the internet to look up anything. So The Key to Time was great. And the photos, there was loads of photos in there. A lot of it was fan art, but there was a lot of photos in there. And there was photos of the different TARDIS consoles. And there's a photo of this version of the TARDIS with the drawer open and the buttons. And it was just so strange. It was just so strange to see because I knew nothing of this TARDIS console. I knew about the 5 faces of Doctor Who. I knew, the classic look of the TARDIS, but I'd never seen anything like this. And the first time I came across it was because I started buying the VHS videos in like the mid-80s. I think the first one I got was Revenge of the Cybermen, and I've got all my VHS collection still. I'll never get rid of them. But Revenge of the Cybermen, and you didn't see the TARDIS console in that episode, but it was, what was it? It was Pyramids of Mars. No, it wasn't. It was, what was it? No, Robots of Death. So I got Robots of Death, and that had like Leela in it, and it was just like, what is it? This is that strange wooden TARDIS, and it was the Doctor's telling Leela about. He's holding up the little boxes and trying to explain time and relative dimensions in space. I just found it so fascinating, so interesting, and it was just a wonderful TARDIS. But I didn't know how this TARDIS appeared. I didn't know the backstory because the VHS videos were kind of all released out of order, and it wasn't until I got the Mask of Mandragora that I realised what had happened, and it was the Doctor and Sarah Jane kind of walking around the TARDIS, and he kind of just entered it. So I've always found it fascinating. And I think I got a proper look at it in The Deadly Assassin, because that was when the Doctor was on his own, and you got a proper look at the walls and all the wood and the brass, and I really like it. I really rate it. I rate it a lot higher than the new Who TARDIS is. And one of the good things is that there's now at the Peterborough unofficial Doctor Who exhibition, which ends in November. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd of November. I think it's the 2nd of November. They've now had a little change around, and they have actually got this TARDIS console on display. It's only a replica, but I want to see it. So me and Chuffy Futter, we're going to go back to Peterborough and have a look. It's not going to be... I was there for hours last time, so I'm not going to be there as long this time because I've seen it all before. But I want to see that TARDIS console, and also they've got a remembrance of the Daleks, Imperial Dalek, and it's my favourite Dalek of all time, probably since I went to the Museum of the Moving Image back in 1991 and was able to see the real props, and actually there was little buttons and you could make their lights light up and stuff like that. So yeah, I love this TARDIS, and probably the reason is because of the VHSs that I used to get from W.H. Smith's back in the day. So that is my number 9. So at number 8 is the War Doctor's TARDIS. It didn't get much airtime, really, but it was a lovely, lovely surprise. I think everyone was surprised to actually see it. And again, it's because it looks classic. It's in white. It's got roundels. I don't like. I mean, it's almost the transition between the War Doctor and the Ninth Doctor. Doesn't really make sense that it's got coral, and they also use the coral pillars as well from the Ninth and 10th Doctor's TARDIS. So I wish they just not bother with the coral pillars. That's the only thing that lets it down. But I like the way there's kind of wires hanging down, and they've done a good job because they've got, you've got to think a budget, but it worked really well for the 50th anniversary. And again, I did see some behind the scenes for the 50th anniversary, and the actual TARDIS they used was a TARDIS the same as the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS, but it was a TARDIS they used to kind of promote the Series 1 with Christopher Eccleston. So it was like a prop TARDIS, and they just used that and repurposed it and made the War Doctor's TARDIS. So I really liked it. I mean, you can see that the time rotor doesn't actually move. So yeah, it's just a proper prop that doesn't work. I didn't see any IKEA paperweights in it, thank goodness. So yeah, I just like it. I mean, we didn't see any screen time really, but it looked nice. I like the lighting as well. But it's just because it's old school really. And again, there's that crossover because you had the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor in the TARDIS as well. And I just like the way the 50th anniversary story kind of went. It had some great pace. But yeah, this is I suppose this is quite high in my rankings because it's classic Doctor Who at the end of the day.
I can see the whole of time and space, every single atom of your existence, and I divide them.
At number 7, I guess you'd call this the Third Doctor's TARDIS, and I know there's been different variations of the Third Doctor's TARDIS. I mean, you've got the Three Doctors version, which is beautiful, and it's I don't know, it's almost reminds me of the First Doctor's TARDIS, with the TV screen, which is his monitor, and then you've got the washing up bowl TARDIS from what episode was that with the Master? It will come to me. And then you've got the Planet of the Daleks, where there was like all IKEA furniture. And do you remember when the Doctor, a bed just comes out of the IKEA wall, where he has to lie down in a Planet of the Daleks. And then Death to the Daleks, the TARDIS seems to have got darker. And then there's when all the power's being taken by the planet Exelon, you see these little kind of hexagon lights on the walls, on where the roundels are. I'd never seen them before. So and also that had a chest in it as well. Where was it? Did the Doctor have a torch in there? Yeah, the Doctor kept the torch in there, and also what's it called? You know, when you the old-fashioned cars, the vintage cars, when you start them up. He had one of those to open the doors. It's all coming back to me now. Again, another Doctor Who BBC video, one of my first ones, Death to the Daleks, which is again why I've got a very soft spot for that particular episode, and also Jon Pertwee's TARDIS. I love the green. I love the green in the centre of the TARDIS console, because it was so new for me, which is a strange thing to say, because for any Doctor Who fans who are watching from 1963, Doctor Who's now in colour, so of course it's different. But for me, I was going backwards. I was going all the way from Sylvester McCoy's. Would it have been Sylvester McCoy's? No, this would have been mid-80s, so Doctor Who was still on. So probably, trying to think, what Doctor Who would I have been? Yeah, I would have been watching, I think, Colin Baker, possibly. I think probably Colin Baker when I started. Yeah, Colin Baker, because when my dad bought our family our first video recorder, that was in 1986, and I had blank tapes, and for the first time ever, I was able to video Trial of a Time Lord. So that's another episode that I really love. So yeah, it was 1986, and that's when I started getting Doctor Who videos. So yeah, it was 1986, all coming back to me. So Colin Baker was a doctor, and then I started being able to pick up the videotapes, $9.99, Let Your Eyes Be Your Guide, and I used to get them for birthdays and Christmas and things like that. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, so this TARDIS is it's got a lot of meaning for me, but it's me going backwards from the Five Doctors TARDIS all the way back to kind of Jon Pertwee, and then of course Patrick Troughton in the Seeds of Death, which was another one of the early videos that I got. But yeah, a wonderful TARDIS console, only ever used by Jon Pertwee, and that's my number 7. So at number 6 is Tom Baker's Pyramids of Mars TARDIS, and again, this was a BBC video that I would have got in like 1986, I think. Loved the story, I'd never seen it before, but the scenes of the Doctor in the TARDIS talking to Sarah Jane, and she comes out in Victoria's outfit, and then you see Sutekh and the TARDIS crashes, and then the TARDIS is used again for when the Doctor travels to an alternative time after Sutekh has taken over the world and destroyed it. You just saw so much of this TARDIS, and it looked beautiful, classic white, but it was so white. It was pure white compared to Jon Pertwee's. It might have been the lighting, but it was so white, and I loved the time rotor. I loved the pink, and it was the first time, because I do remember Tom Baker's pink. Well, am I describing it right? The time rotor had a pink light in it. I remember that from the late 70s when I used to watch Doctor Who before Tom Baker regenerated. But again, this is me going backwards from the Five Doctors TARDIS console all the way back to Pyramids of Mars, and it just looked beautiful. And I don't remember seeing this. You see, I don't consider this to be the same TARDIS console as like the ones used in Logopolis and Castrovalva. It's a completely different TARDIS console room. So I don't. Yeah, I think this is a standalone TARDIS console and TARDIS console room, and I call it the Pyramids of Mars. And this is my number 6. So at number 5, I'm calling it the Logopolis-Castrovalva TARDIS, but that's just me calling it that. I know this TARDIS was seen on screen way before then, but I think it's when I started watching Doctor Who properly, probably Tom Baker's final season, and of course this was what the TARDIS looked like. I do remember seeing some, because I was born in 1975, So, I couldn't have watched Doctor Who because it was too scary. I was aware of it, and I remember Tom Baker's original end credits, and I remember, I don't know what the episodes were, but I remember talking to my cousins who were always around my house and thinking how scary it would be to go down that time tunnel and what monsters would be down there. But I don't really remember watching Doctor Who until Tom Baker's final season. That's when I was really taking it in, and the TARDIS. I just thought it was amazing. So this was my first TARDIS, really, and I just loved it. I loved the roundels. I loved the pink on the time rotor, but I didn't know any different. This was the Doctor's TARDIS. I thought it was great. K9 was in it. It was classic Doctor Who, and I do. The episodes that kind of really stand out for me were it was like the E-Space trilogy when Romana left the Doctor, and then we met Adric, and that's when it kind of that's when kind of Doctor Who it started being something that I chose to watch because I loved it. And my older brother, he always used to say, yeah, John Pertwee is better. And so I was aware that there was Doctors before, but I didn't know how regeneration worked or anything like that. But this was a beautiful TARDIS. And then I remember a good friend of mine at school. So he didn't watch Doctor Who. So this would have been in the late 80s. Would have been the late 80s, and his brother had recorded Doctor Who off the telly, and he said his brother had a few episodes. He said, look, bring a blank tape in, and my brother will do you a copy. So his brother copied me, I think it was a couple of Colin Baker episodes. I think it was a Twin Dilemma, actually, but also he copied me Logopolis and Castrovalva, and I'd not seen them because they weren't available on VHS, and I'd not seen them since I first watched them when they went live on telly. And I remember one of the first things I noticed was I watched Logopolis, and it was amazing. I remember the story, but it was amazing to watch it properly, all 4 episodes. And then when I watched Castrovalva straight after, the TARDIS console was slightly different. I don't know if it was tape or paint applications, but the TARDIS console was different from when Tom Baker regenerated and then Peter Davison entered, and it was just kind of strange for me to see that. But obviously, no one would have noticed at the time because there was such a long gap between Logopolis airing and then the following season when we got to see Castrovalva. So this TARDIS has a special place in my heart because really it is my first TARDIS. Oh, I forgot to mention that the Logopolis-Castrovalva TARDIS showed up again in the 2 Doctors with Patrick Troughton, but I'm not counting that TARDIS at all because if they had the budget, they would have made like a Patrick Troughton's original TARDIS. But it was definitely good to see it because I didn't remember it that well because I was so young. But I do remember, I remember seeing it, and again, it's the pink of the time rotor. But back to business. So we're now at number 4, and I call this the Smith-Capaldi TARDIS because although Capaldi changed, he changed it again. He got the Tom Baker pink lights inside the time rotor. It's the same TARDIS console room, and I really love what they did here. This is how you make a space and time machine. I mean, it's a proper spaceship. It's got buttons everywhere, lights up really nicely. I love what they did with Matt Smith. But when Peter Capaldi took over, put his stamp on it with the with the pink lights, I'm easily pleased. The pink lights in the time rotor, for me, that was a nod back to Tom Baker. And then to have the roundels added later on, it was just beautiful. It was a perfect size, not too big. It had different levels, but not over the top, like Shooty's TARDIS, which is just far too over the top. It had different lighting as well, so it could be bright, it could be dark. I loved it, and again, you had the crossover because you had you had Capaldi regenerating to Jodie, even though she destroyed it. And I still don't understand. I still don't understand what Jodie did. All she did was press a button, and the TARDIS exploded. They've never explained it. Doesn't do a lot for women drivers, does it? But I just don't understand what happened. And I think it would have been nice, rather than starting, this is my new series of Doctor Who, I'm the new showrunner, have a season or a few stories, get Jodie into the part, and have the old TARDIS console. Why do you have to constantly keep changing things? I don't know. But it was nice to have the crossover. So Jodie did appear in it for like 5 seconds. But then you also had David Bradley representing the first Doctor, William Hartnell, showing up in it as well. So really, really loved that TARDIS. And I was sad to see it go, but I was also really happy that we got something that looked like what a TARDIS should look like. So definitely my number 4. So number 3 is the Paul McGann TARDIS. Absolutely love this. There's been a lot of people who knock Doctor Who the movie. Now I remember watching it back in 1996, bank holiday. Was it May bank holiday? Absolutely blew me away. I thought, I know, like looking back at it, the story, maybe the story's got a lot of holes in it, but I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the Master in it. Eric Roberts was brilliant. I loved Grace, played by Daphne Ashbrook. The whole thing, the whole production was beautifully done, and I thought this is the start of something. This is the start of something special. The special effects were brilliant. They even stand up today. The Doctor Who logo. I was so excited for it. And it didn't disappoint, in my opinion. It didn't disappoint, unlike the 60th anniversary. But it had the old school John Pertwee logo in blue. They kept the theme tune. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And the TARDIS, well, the exterior box, very much based on the 80s model, looks beautiful. And the police box exterior is high up there on my list of exteriors, and I know they've all got names, haven't they? And I've is it the I can't remember. I'm not really into the names of the boxes. I know what I like. I mean, these TARDIS console rooms, they've probably got names as well, and I just make up my own ones. But I love the McGann movie, but the TARDIS console and the TARDIS itself, proper Jules Verne. It was almost, I don't know. It was almost for me, very much like the Robots of Death, Deadly Assassin, Mask of Mandragora TARDIS. You know, the Jules Verne, the brass, the wood. It was so much like that. And look, I am going over the top over it because I just love it. I thought the mechanics of it as well, when the Doctor would pull the lever and you'd have the different names of the destinations coming up. I loved that the ceiling was his scanner, and he could see, he could show you the sky and the galaxy, and you could see Gallifrey. Everything about it, even the I know the Eye of Harmony didn't make too much sense why the Eye of Harmony was inside the TARDIS, but I liked it. I liked, when the eye opened. I liked the staff with Rassilon. They even used Rassilon's face. You could tell it was made by someone who loves Doctor Who. You could tell, and I thought it was great. And also it had the crossover because it was Sylvester McCoy's TARDIS first, and I remember it had a lot of screen time. It had a lot of screen time in that movie, and I remember at the end when the Doctor's just sitting there with his cup of tea, and he's listening to his record player, and I was thinking, and the record jumps. I was thinking this is going to be great. I can't wait for the series, and it just never happened, and we never saw the TARDIS again. And I did speak to the I did speak to the guy who owns the actual TARDIS console prop, and he always said to me, which I thought was lovely, because he doesn't even know me, because we're friends on Facebook. But he said, if you're ever in San Diego, and this was years ago, and he probably can't remember, but if you're ever in San Diego, let me know, and you can come in my garage and you can see the TARDIS. But since then, he takes the TARDIS console to Comic Cons and things like that. So it's probably all packed away. But I thought that was a lovely touch. We were talking about the Doctor Who experience, and I said, oh, you should get your TARDIS over to London for the Doctor Who experience. But he doesn't need the Doctor Who experience. That's gone now. But you can see the real TARDIS console at Comic Cons, like San Diego and things like that. So one day I'd love to see the real prop as used by Sylvester McCoy and the wonderful Paul McGann, because Paul McGann, he's my second favourite Doctor of all time, and that's after Colin Baker, who is my favourite Doctor of all time. I love those two guys, and I've met them many times. But I love the Doctor Who movie TARDIS. I just think it is. I think it's wonderful. Really, really made well. Works fantastic, and it's, for me, it was so different from the classic series, from the last TARDIS used by Sylvester McCoy, and it kind of from the McGann TARDIS, where the kind of time rotor kind of goes into the ceiling. That's how all the TARDISes have been going forward, apart from Jodie's Dragonfire time rotor, which I don't like whatsoever. But yeah, the McGann TARDIS is my number 3. So at number 2, there's only one way you can possibly describe this TARDIS console room, and you've got to call it the William Hartnell TARDIS console room. I know it was used by Patrick Troughton as well, but if you look back at An Unearthly Child, that first episode, when you see inside the TARDIS and kind of how big it is and all the extras, and then as time went on in William Hartnell's time as the Doctor, it only became like a couple of walls, which then kind of went forward with Patrick Troughton. I remember the Seas of Death, and when he lands in the museum, and all you can see is Zoe and Jamie and the Doctor, and the controls are they're really hard for him to operate, the scanner, and you see the TARDIS console and the time rotor, but it's just a couple of walls, and it's nothing like it was in that first episode with William Hartnell. But that's production budgets of the day, and not being able to maintain sets and also the costs involved in keeping sets and things like that. So even though the TARDIS went through many changes with William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, I still consider it to be the same TARDIS console room, similar to David Bradley. So when he was in Twice Upon a Time, that is the William Hartnell TARDIS. It's just a more updated version with a bigger budget, but that is the William Hartnell TARDIS, and it is such a beautiful TARDIS console. I was disappointed that I never got to actually see the actual prop that they made especially for the documentary or the docudrama with David Bradley, because that was so beautifully written by Mark Gatiss. I loved it. But Twice Upon a Time, a lot of people don't agree with me, but it's one of my favourite ever Doctor Who episodes of all time. I just love it. I love Peter Capaldi. David Bradley is great. He was at Collectomania a couple of weeks ago, and I just love it. And I can't wait for the BBC to kind of release the long version of Twice Upon a Time. They should do it for Christmas. There's no Doctor Who episode for Christmas Day. They should put the Peter Capaldi Twice Upon a Time episode on Christmas Day, but the longer version. Because I think they said there was like an extra half an hour of footage, but they had to cut it down to an hour for the Christmas Day slot. And also, I've said this before, but the interesting thing is they're repeating Matt Smith's episodes, aren't they? Is it on BBC Three or is it? It's not on the BBC. I don't know what BBC it's on, but they're going to start repeating that because New Who's rubbish, and they're doing it from his very first episode. So I wonder if they will do the longer version, the director's cut, if you like, of Peter Capaldi's final episode. Honestly, it'd be lovely. That would make my Christmas. I know it's not going to happen, but why not? All the footage is sitting there. The BBC own it. I suppose they can't do anything with this Disney deal. We all know what way it's going to go, but it's still not been finalised, has it? They've still got to show that Sea Devil series, which I might have a little look at. It looks interesting, but I don't know. But yeah, going back to the William Hartnell TARDIS, it's a classic design. It's the original, you might say. I love it, and that's my number 2. And at number 1, it can only be the Five Doctors TARDIS. I love this TARDIS so much. Of course, my favourite Doctor of all time, Colin Baker. This was his TARDIS. But when I first saw it in the Five Doctors, because things were different. Things were just completely different back then in 1983. Whereas now you check the internet, you could see what was going on, spoilers. You had nothing. So when I watched the Five Doctors and the first scene is the new TARDIS console, I was just blown away. And I'll never forget that I had this dilemma because Doctor Who was on a Friday, because I think it was shown in America first, the 20th anniversary special, but it was it Friday the 25th of November? It was part of Children in Need, I think. I didn't know nothing about Children in Need back then, and I had to decide whether I watch the A-Team or I watch Doctor Who, and it was really hard because I loved the A-Team so much, but I also loved Doctor Who. So in the end, because I never had the problem before, because Doctor Who was always on a Saturday, and in the end, Doctor Who won because they were both on at the same time. It blew me away. I absolutely loved the episode, but seeing the TARDIS, it I don't know, it just had an effect on me because maybe I sort of feel it was my TARDIS. It was my TARDIS for my Doctor, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so well built. I loved the time rotor. It was so gentle, unlike the previous Tom Baker, Peter Davison TARDIS, where it was just up and down. I think it was mainly Tom Baker's era where the time rotor was all over the place. But it was so smooth. It was so smooth on the Five Doctors. And it was great having Peter Davison having his own TARDIS. And where Peter Davison used to use the red knob to open the door. And then they actually gave him a proper door opener. It was I think it was like a square handle. And it was just beautiful. It just blew me away. And from that moment on, I was hooked. I knew that was my favourite TARDIS console. I'd love to see that particular TARDIS back in the new series, or if it ends up in a movie, I'd love to see it back in some capacity. And I heard there was talk that they were going to use it for the War Doctor's TARDIS in the 50th anniversary, because they obviously they had it because it was in the Doctor Who Experience, which is also where David Tennant's TARDIS console room was, and that's where they filmed it, actually in the Experience itself. So yeah, the Five Doctors TARDIS is my favourite. I love it. And when I went to the Doctor Who experience in London, and I got to see it for the first time, you know, in the flesh, I was just taken back to my youth. And I remember because I went with my younger brother, and he was like walking around, but the nostalgia was too much for me, and I just it wasn't too busy, and I remember just leaning there on the kind of, there was like it was all kind of it had like, I don't know, say you weren't able to touch the TARDIS. They had this kind of partition going around it. And I remember leaning on it. It was like a pole. And I must have been there for like 10, 15 minutes, just mesmerised, watching the time rotor go up and down, and the lights. And it was quite atmospheric because it was quite kind of dark in there. And my younger brother, I remember he filmed it all. And he can't, you know, this was back in, was it 2011, I think, we went. And he says he can't find the footage, which is such a shame. I would have loved that. I mean, I know you can probably find it on YouTube, but it would have been our footage. I would have loved to have seen that. Maybe it will turn up one day, but that was really special for me. And from going to the London Doctor Who experience, that was the best part for me, seeing the TARDIS. And for me, that is the TARDIS. That's my number one. I absolutely love it. And again, it's got crossover with Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy. You know, I really think the crossover, it's not important really, but it's important to me. And of course you had the first Doctor in there, and I know it was Richard Herndl, but the first Doctor from the Five Doctors, he was in that TARDIS console as well as Jimmy Savile, but that's another story. But yeah, that is my I've got it as 14 TARDIS console rooms. You might have it different. This is just me doing my own thing. You probably won't agree with my top 14 TARDIS console rooms. You know, it's just an opinion. But that is let me know what your favourite TARDIS console is in the comments below. But that is the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It lets me know you care. Also helps the channel. I think I've managed to do the video under 60 minutes, which is a plus. But yeah, that is the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.